Hello everyone! We're diving into I'm looking for a new husband. Please remember to like and subscribe. It truly helps us out. Enjoy. Fireworks light up the night sky. Amid the festivities, a woman walks through the castle, eerily serene. In her grasp is the severed head of her husband, held like a simple offering. The story flashes back to where it all started. To that dark day, she was judged for a crime she didn't commit. Desperation sent her fleeing to a remote shrine, searching for a place to hide. But the guards closed in, cutting off all escape. Accepting her fate, she uttered a final prayer, begging for a chance to live once more. Her plea is met by a mysterious voice, one that grants her the power to rewind time each time she is killed. The cost for this power? Half of her life with every death. A terrifying deal against a ticking clock. As the voice fades, a blade slices her neck. She awakens in her bed, alive again, returned to her wedding day. From that day on, she fights to escape her doomed marriage and the execution that always followed. But no matter how she twisted fate, death always found her. Each failure stole more of her remaining years, turning her frustration into cold fury. Every path to ruin led back to her treasonous husband. Even killing him in previous lives changed absolutely nothing. Now, in her 7th life, with only 15 months to live, everything changes. She enters the ballroom, resolute, a platter held in her hands. Kneeling before the emperor, she presents her grim victory. Her husband's head displayed for the entire court to see. This is 𝒂𝒓𝒂𝒏, a noble daughter raised to be nothing more than an asset. After her mother's death, the 𝒂𝒓𝒂𝒏 family saw her less as a child and more as a pawn to be used. In the end, her father sold her into a cold, loveless marriage with Count 𝒂𝒓𝒏. Surprisingly, 𝒂𝒏 found a sliver of peace in this union. The Count's indifference was a blessing. His distance gave her a freedom she had never known under her family's watch. But this fragile peace shattered when her husband plotted a rebellion. Now, the emperor has summoned the nobility, demanding to know who helped the Count. Across the hall, disgusted glares are aimed at 𝒂𝒏, as if her brutal act is the only crime in the room. 𝒂𝒏's life is a mix of horror and cold calculation. What shocks others no longer affects her, and her composure is both terrifying and fascinating. 𝒂𝒏 ignores them all. She knows her remaining time is slipping away, and she will cherish every last second. A familiar voice cuts through the murmurs. It's her father, wearing a fake celebratory smile, with her 2 smug brothers right behind him. 𝒂𝒏 sees through their performance instantly. She plays along with a polite facade, greeting them as society expects. But the moment her father speaks, her patience shatters. Acting on pure instinct, she grabs a glass of wine and hurls it onto his pristine suit. Her father and brothers burn with anger, ready to punish her. But the palace bells ring. The sound interrupts them, heralding an imperial message. The emperor then calls for 𝒂𝒏 to step forward. The emperor's voice booms across the hall, praising 𝒂𝒏 for exposing her late husband's treachery. Anyone who supported Count 𝒂𝒂𝒏 will be executed. A wave of terror sweeps through the nobles. As her reward, the emperor raises her family's noble status. But 𝒂𝒏 wants none of it. All she desires is a life that is truly hers. She then reveals her family's long history of cruelty, describing how they used her only for money and power. As she meets the emperor's eyes, a strange chill runs through her. His gaze is heavier than before. Still, he grants her request, making her the new head of the 𝒂𝒂𝒏 family. At that moment, the emperor's aides enter the hall, carrying the results of their intense investigation. Their grim expressions send waves of fear through the nobles as they present their findings. The banquet eventually continues. 𝒂𝒏 turns to leave, but an aide stops her with astonishing news. A massive vein of monocrystals was found on her late husband's land, and by law, it now all belongs to her. A staggering 30 billion golds worth. 𝒂𝒏 freezes. The number is almost beyond belief. From hunted woman to wealthy heiress. Whispers spread like wildfire, discussing her immense fortune and her sudden leap in status. Then Count 𝒂𝒏 sneers at her, mocking her for shaming her family. But 𝒂𝒏 stands tall, stating she only punished evil and exposed her family's own greed. She pushes further, hinting that she holds more evidence that she could easily bring before the emperor. Her voice is calm, but her message is a razor-sharp threat. Count 𝒂𝒏's false confidence cracks on the spot. Their tense confrontation draws every eye. The Count begins to tremble, realizing he challenged the most dangerous woman in the room. A new dawn breaks, the first day 𝒂𝒏 has truly escaped her fate. For the first time in her many lives, the path ahead feels open and peaceful. The mansion buzzes with activity, filled with new servants after the old ones were fired for aiding the late Count. Today is also significant for another reason. 𝒂𝒏 is about to be named the richest countess in the empire. When she arrives at the palace, dressed in breathtaking elegance, every head turns. Whispers immediately follow her. A mixture of awe and curiosity trails in her wake. The crown prince himself approaches, greeting her with polished charm. Unlike the secluded emperor, the crown prince is a well-known figure, and not in a good way. His reputation for overwhelming greed is famous. It seems her instincts were right on the mark. As rumors of her fortune swirl, the crown prince voices his so-called concern. He offers to safeguard her money, a thinly veiled power play. But 𝒂𝒓𝒏 calmly assures him she can manage her own vast fortune. Her refusal stuns him, but she remains unbothered. She cryptically adds that one day, she will simply vanish from this world. Her absolute confidence leaves him utterly speechless. In the main hall, the nobles gather as the ceremony begins. Her father attempts a hollow celebration, but she glides past him, cold as ice. She wastes no emotion on those who abandoned her. Next, she faces the emperor. He praises her victories and presents her with a ring, the official symbol of her new station as countess. 𝒂𝒏 accepts with perfect grace. But as she rises, that unsettling chill returns. The emperor's gaze locks onto hers, heavy and dangerously unreadable. She turns to leave, but he suddenly seizes her arm, pulling her face to face. His expression turns sharp, almost predatory, as he lets out a chilling laugh. His voice turns sinister, sending a shiver down her spine. He claims to know she has crossed paths with a god. 𝒂𝒏 stiffens at his bizarre claim, utterly confused. But he speaks with total certainty, sensing a divine blessing within her very aura. His grip tightens on her hand, as if intending to never let her go. Still baffled, 𝒂𝒏 responds with her usual bluntness, saying she prefers younger men. The emperor merely laughs, amused by her nerve, eager to see what fate has in store. The next day, 𝒂𝒏 sits alone in her mansion, the emperor's ominous words echoing in her mind. Could a god have truly given her a second chance at life? The thought consumes her. Determined, she resolves to uncover the truth. When she goes out, 𝒂𝒑𝒆, her new advisor from the emperor, trails behind her at a respectful distance. 𝒂𝒏 asks her for the location of the nearest temple. 𝒂𝒑𝒆 answers, but describes a place completely unfamiliar to her. She presses further, asking about a hidden shrine deep in the woods. But 𝒂𝒑𝒆 just shakes her head, knowing of no such place. Undeterred, she follows her memories into the forest as instinct guides her. The air grows cold when she reaches the spot, only to find an empty clearing. Not a trace remains, no ruins, no shrine. 𝒂𝒑𝒆 gently asks why this place is so important to her. The memories flood back. The moment she died, that mysterious voice, the pact that sealed her fate. She confesses to 𝒂𝒑𝒆 she made a deal there. But she knows nothing of the entity's face or location now. She looks to 𝒂𝒑𝒆, desperate for some meaningful insight. Instead, the answer is brutally simple. She thinks 𝒂𝒏𝒏 got scammed. Well, so much for a divine revelation. Late that night, 𝒂𝒏𝒏 stands on the balcony. 𝒂𝒑𝒆's words still haunt her. The grand mansion feels quiet and strangely unfamiliar. After lifetimes spent running from death, she realizes she never learned how to truly live. Her vision suddenly blurs as her balance gives way. She pitches forward, but 𝒂𝒑𝒆 catches her from behind. Pulled back to safety, 𝒂𝒏𝒏 just brushes it off with a playful smile. Her casual attitude only deepens 𝒂𝒑𝒆's concern. She warns her to be wary of schemes, then delivers some shocking news. The crown prince has formally applied to be her partner. 𝒂𝒏𝒏 immediately and coldly rejects the very idea. 𝒂𝒑𝒆 is stunned she'd refuse such a powerful alliance, but 𝒂𝒏𝒏 shocks her even more, casually announcing she will openly recruit a husband instead. It's an audacious move. The next day, bored in her study, 𝒂𝒏𝒏 starts calling 𝒂𝒑𝒆 by a string of silly nicknames. 𝒂𝒑𝒆 remains perfectly stoic, answering each time. She suggests reading, but 𝒂𝒏𝒏 is about to refuse until a certain book catches her eye. 𝒂𝒑𝒆 tries to hide it, but 𝒂𝒏𝒏's eager and demanding gaze leaves her no other choice. She hands the book over, and 𝒂𝒏𝒏 vanishes with it in a flash. Only then does she remember the book's inappropriate content, but it's already too late. In the library, 𝒂𝒏𝒏 is completely engrossed. The story pulls her in so deeply that 𝒂𝒑𝒆 has to inform her an entire day has passed. Moments later, 𝒂𝒏𝒏 calls for her again, this time with a surprising declaration. She suddenly feels an interest in love. It seems that book was more than just entertaining. A few days later, notices are posted all over the empire. It's a recruitment poster, seeking a husband for Countess 𝒂𝒏𝒏. Listed are all her demands and an incredible prize of 1 billion gold. Crowds swarm the announcements, buzzing with curiosity, shock, and the powerful allure of that massive fortune. Over the following days, an endless line of hopeful men forms outside her mansion, all vying for a chance at her extravagant husband contest. 𝒂𝒑𝒆 looks horrified, especially by the 1 billion gold prize. But 𝒂𝒏 insists she simply wants to find a man who will truly suit her. They move on to discussing how the selection process will actually work. 𝒂𝒏 confidently lists her terms: a man strong with a sword, smart enough for real conversation, and utterly dedicated to supporting her. Suddenly, a commotion erupts nearby. Two men are berating a waiter, shamelessly using 𝒂𝒏's name for leverage. What terrible timing. Unfortunately for them, 𝒂𝒏 and 𝑫𝒖𝒑𝒆 are seated close enough to hear every single word. 𝒂𝒏 is instantly disgusted. She declares no man that rude or entitled will ever be a candidate. 𝒑𝒖𝒑𝒆 then proposes adding a personality test to the screening. That way, men with awful characters can be eliminated early. 𝒂𝒏 loves the idea. As they walk down the street, someone slams into 𝒂𝒏 and runs. Before they can act, another stranger trips the fleeing man, sending him crashing to the ground. The mysterious man recovers her wallet, exposing a common thief. He then shoves the culprit towards the guards for justice. But a question lingers in 𝒂𝒏's mind. She dressed so plainly, so how did the thief know she was wealthy? The stranger scans the area, but his gaze locks onto 𝒂𝒏. His face changes in an instant, as if he'd seen a ghost from a long-lost memory. He brazenly closes the distance, demanding a reward. But his request is strange. He presses a thumb to his lips, then gently touches her forehead. A torrent of images overwhelms her. Towering trees, dappled sunlight, and the profound silence of a forgotten forest. As the vision subsides, 𝒂𝒏 recoils, slapping his hand away. She demands to know what he has just done to her. The stranger simply laughs it off, claiming mistaken identity before leaving. But 𝒂𝒏 feels a deep, unsettling feeling she can't ignore. She grabs his arm, certain they have met before. The man hesitates, denying it. He insists it has been years since he visited the 𝒑𝒖𝒑𝒆 territory. He quickly makes an excuse, claiming he is there for her famous husband selection contest. The irony is thick. The very woman he wants to marry is standing right before him. 𝒑𝒑𝒆 observes 𝒂𝒏's reaction closely. She notes the strange look in 𝒂𝒏's eyes, asking if he should be considered. 𝒂𝒏 dismisses it, but the uneasy feeling will not leave. This is not love. It's something ancient, a weight buried in her memory. Acting on instinct, 𝒂𝒏 orders an investigation into the stranger's background. 𝒑𝒑𝒆 dutifully takes notes, but not without grumbling about 𝒂𝒏's very generous salary plans for the nights. The next day, 𝒂𝒏 starts building the foundation for her very own private night order. But before she can proceed, 𝒑𝒑𝒆 brings urgent news. The Imperial Palace has sent her a knight, 𝑟oken Pendelium of the Pendelium Marquisite. He's the youngest ever to pass the knight's exam and a champion swordsman. The Emperor himself bestowed upon him a ceremonial sword. Once a second commander, he was demoted. His father was suspected of conspiring with the treacherous Count Bordis. As punishment, he was transferred under 𝒂𝒏's direct command. Just then, 𝒑𝒑𝒆 ushers 𝑟oken into the room. The knight enters, but the moment he sees 𝒂𝒏, his hand clenches. He forcibly crumples the paper he is holding. �roken's greeting is cold and formal, his anger barely concealed. The sting of his demotion and his father's false accusations is clear. 𝒂𝒏 reads the tension in the air immediately. �roken presents the recruitment notice, completely misjudging her true intentions. But 𝒂𝒏 quickly corrects his mistaken assumption. She has no interest in buying the loyalty of knights. She is simply hiring them for security. Her directness is disarming, leaving no space for any misunderstanding. Her true goal is to strengthen the county's defenses to protect her people. Her subjects deserve safety, even if she doesn't want loyalty. She offers �roken the captain's position with a powerful promise. If he accepts, she will clear his family's name. He accepts with visible relief. She offers a firm 80 gold, non-negotiable. Later, they draft the contracts for the new knights. 𝒂𝒏 asks how long 𝒑𝒑𝒆 intends to stay. The aide vows to serve for life, unless she is ever dismissed. So when 𝒂𝒏 mentions a recommendation letter, 𝒑𝒑𝒆 panics. She doesn't know 𝒂𝒏 is just planning for when her 15 months are up. Reassured, 𝒑𝒑𝒆's warmth returns. She loves her life here. 𝒂𝒏 feels a rare pull on her own heartstrings. The days fly by, and the long-awaited moment finally arrives. The husband selection contest begins, and 𝒂𝒏 is buzzing with excitement. For her, this is the start of her quest for true love. A chance to finally see what destiny has in store. Today's event is swordsmanship, a raw test of physical prowess. A sea of nervous suitors stands ready to make their first impressions. With so many applicants, the contestants were divided into multiple groups for the tournament. Contestants are eliminated based on their skill, quickly thinning the herd. As 𝒂𝒏 watches, 𝒑𝒑𝒆 approaches. She has information on the stranger named Arvid. 𝒂𝒏 takes the report from her aide, only to find the page is completely blank. 𝒑𝒑𝒆 explains his record is nearly empty. He lived in remote mountain villages, moving constantly from place to place. He never settles down. But his purpose is what is truly strange. He seeks traces of a forgotten religion, visiting abandoned temples. The detail gives 𝑫𝒂𝒓𝒄𝒄 a moment of pause. Could his quest be connected to her own secret search for a god? 𝑫𝒖𝒑𝒄𝒄𝒄 adds a final, chilling detail. Arvid claimed he'd found what he was looking for, and it was located right here, in 𝒖𝒂𝒓𝒄𝒄. Is it coincidence, or is it fate? 𝒬𝒂𝒓𝒄𝒄 can't help but wonder if their destinies are already intertwined. Lost in thought about Arvid, 𝒬𝒂𝒓𝒄𝒄 is approached by Roken. He insists on escorting her to view the contestants. She tries to refuse, but Roken remains firm in his duty. Soon, 𝒖𝒑𝒄𝒄𝒄 announces Lady 𝒬𝒂𝒓𝒄𝒄's arrival at the training grounds. As she appears, the entire field goes silent. All eyes are on her, until they feel the piercing glare of Roken, her knight. She thanks the men for participating, her voice ringing with excitement for the next round of the competition. Her words ignite their fighting spirit, each man more determined to win her hand. That night, 𝒬𝒂𝒓𝒄𝒄 waits, as Roken had asked to share a meal together. She sat in silence, until shifting shadows outside the window caught her eye. Figures sprinted across the grounds, escaping towards the mansion. Before she could process it, Roken burst in, his face a mask of tension. He delivered impossible news. A black hole had torn open the sky. As if her life wasn't dramatic enough, the universe itself was now testing her. News of the black hole sent 𝒬𝒂𝒓𝒄𝒄 into a panic. She rushed to where it appeared, ignoring Roken and 𝒖𝒑𝒄𝒄's pleas for her to stay put. She battled fierce winds to reach the site, only to find Arvid already there. How ironic. He warned her to be careful, yet pushed forward himself, nearing the dark anomaly. Worried, 𝒬𝒂𝒓𝒄𝒄 chased after him, but Roken held her back. It was far too dangerous to proceed. He shouted for Arvid to back away, but his words were ignored. "It's just a tiny rift," he said coolly, inching closer. Then, with a simple flick of his finger, the rift vanished, leaving everyone speechless. Who in the world was this man? That night, nightmares plagued 𝒬𝒂𝒓𝒄𝒄. She ran for her life as a void consumed her. Stranger still, Arvid appeared in her dream. The next day, 𝒬𝒂𝒓𝒄𝒄 sighed in exhaustion. Multiple rifts had opened across the empire, but her county suffered the most. For some reason, she had a terrible feeling their appearance was somehow connected to her. The thought alone gave her a headache, and Arvid's familiarity with it all didn't help. He claimed the rifts began 300 years ago. The priests of Ceridium would surely know more. But closing the rifts was another matter entirely. In a hushed voice, Arvid confessed he possessed divine power. If more rifts appeared, he would handle them just for her. An offer made only because he was competing for her hand. His sole condition was that his ability remained secret, especially from the priests. Speaking of the contestants, 𝒖𝒑𝒄𝒄, or Sis, informed 𝒬𝒂𝒓𝒄𝒄 that Arvid was currently leading the competition. As if on cue, Arvid made his entrance. Despite coming from the sword contest, 𝒬𝒂𝒓𝒄𝒄 noticed how fresh and dashing he looked. But with no time to waste, she cut to the chase, accepting his offer to eliminate the rifts in her domain. Of course, she wasn't expecting free service and offered him a formal employment contract. Arvid sighed, taken aback by her sudden proposal. As a compromise, he suggested his services count as extra points in the competition. After all, dealing with rifts wasn't hard for him. At his words, 𝒬𝒂𝒓𝒄𝒄's eyes lit up. Could he possibly eliminate all the rifts in the county? Unfortunately, the entire county was beyond his power. Curiosity gnawed at 𝒬𝒂𝒓𝒄𝒄. Was he an excommunicated priest? He laughed at the question, confessing he was not. It just so happened he was born with divine power, perhaps from being a believer in a past life. Surprisingly, Arvid did have an answer to one of her many questions. He knew what caused the rifts. But before sharing such vital information, he asked for free access to the manor, a small price for such a revelation. Gratefully, 𝒬𝒂𝒓𝒄𝒄 agreed, promising to have an access badge made just for him. According to Arvid, the rifts meant there was an anomaly, an existence causing a great imbalance in the world's energy. 𝒬𝒂𝒓𝒄𝒄 could only laugh bitterly. To think her own existence was the cause of it all. She escaped death once, only for the universe to hunt her down again. Days passed, and 𝒬𝒂𝒓𝒄𝒄 grew obsessed with the competition. She'd be damned if she died again before finding true love. One day, she overheard contestants bad-mouthing her. But unknown to them, Roken heard every single word. With a whisper of steel, he drew his sword, striking fear into their hearts. He was in no mood for mercy. He would eliminate them on the spot. Luckily for them, he followed protocol, letting his knights handle them. As the men were dragged away, Roken announced the coast was clear. 𝒬𝒂𝒓𝒄𝒄 was stunned. How did he know she was there? She emerged with a cheeky smile, a sight that brought a faint blush to Roken's cheeks. A knight must always be vigilant, but if Roken was honest, her sweet scent had given her away. Looking at him, 𝒬𝒂𝒓𝒄𝒄 wondered what thoughts lay behind his gentle gaze. It was an expression she couldn't quite read. Roken, however, was being eaten by guilt. If only he'd been more aware, he could have spared her the pain of hearing such vile words. My second lead syndrome is flaring up. I could fall for this man, 𝑫𝒂𝒓𝒏 smiled. She had nothing but gratitude and trust for Roken, a sentiment that shocked him. It seemed her 14-month contract made him believe she had little faith in his abilities. Instantly, she rushed to clear up the misunderstanding. She explained the short contract was because he seemed so unhappy to serve her initially. She couldn't possibly tell him the real truth. Heading inside, 𝑫𝒂𝒓𝒏 thought about the knight's oath, a lifelong pledge of loyalty. She wondered if Roken ever wanted to make such an oath. Not from duty, but from his own heart. He hesitated, then returned the question. Had she ever wanted to receive one? Her answer was an immediate no. She smiled fondly. She wondered who Roken would pledge his lifelong oath to. She then excused herself, leaving a stunned Roken behind. He'd always found the oath pretentious. But looking at 𝑫𝒂𝒓𝒏, he found his convictions wavering, almost completely changed. As he watched her walk away, he snapped out of his trance. For her, perhaps he would make that oath. But what was the point, if she didn't want it? 3 weeks vanished in a flash. For 3 agonizing weeks, the rifts tore through the empire, plunging it into chaos. The imperial family and Ceridium Order offered artifacts for protective barriers. But these fragile shields were barely holding back the tide. So she provided immense financial aid to the victims, a desperate attempt to atone for the guilt crushing her soul. The rifts, after all, were hunting times her asterisk. Just then, 𝑫𝒂𝒏𝒄𝒆 appeared with a special badge for Arvid, his personal pass to the manor. 𝑫𝒂𝒏𝒄𝒆 also delivered a royal letter, an invitation to the Crown Prince's birthday banquet, an event 𝑫𝒂𝒏𝒄𝒆 was warned not to miss. Declining twice would be a grave insult. But there was worse news. Her family wanted to attend the banquet with her. That news instantly ruined 𝑫𝒂𝒏𝒄𝒆's mood. She would attend the banquet, but under no circumstances would it be with times them asterisk. She stormed into the garden to cool her rage. There, she found Arvid asleep, tormented by what seemed to be nightmares. She sat beside him and gently pressed her thumb to his forehead, the same tender gesture he once showed her. A small smile formed as she realized his calming effect on her. She left the badge beside him and departed. But upon her return, an unwelcome figure blocked her path, her brother. Her older brother, Leighton, was always their father's perfect prized son. This meant bearing the weight of immense expectations, a crushing pressure that not even Leighton could always withstand. And for every one of his failures, he took his rage out on 𝑫𝒂𝒏𝒄𝒆. Now, he stood before her, demanding to know her escort for the banquet. He sneered, "Surely you won't take some nobody from that absurd contest?" At his words, a brilliant idea sparked in her mind. That was exactly times what she would do. Thanks for the tip, brother. She would burn her own reputation to the ground to stop her family's ambitions. With a spiteful glare, she dismissed him. Her defiance enraged him. He accused her of sacrificing their family for her own selfish desires. His words hit a raw nerve. She met his audacity with a fire of her own, throwing his insults back in his face. Humiliated, Leighton lunged, raising a hand to strike her. His arm swung down with fury, only to be caught midair. Arvid appeared from nowhere, swatting the limb away like trash. With the tables turned, 𝑫𝒂𝒏𝒄𝒆 introduced Arvid to a stunned Leighton. She declared him her partner and her future husband. The declaration stunned even Arvid. Leighton completely snapped, screaming that she was nothing but an ungrateful wench. That was the final straw. In all her 7 lifetimes, her family had always been the first to betray her. They were why she had only 15 months left to live. Gratitude? For them? The situation exploded as Leighton lunged again. Arvid mercilessly shattered his hand, leaving Leighton screaming in agony. "Try that again," he warned, "and you'll lose the arm." The chaos over, 𝑫𝒂𝒏𝒄𝒆 collapsed into Arvid's embrace. She cried silently in his arms, thankful for his protective warmth. After composing herself, she tried to lighten the mood for Arvid, but she still had to address her stunning declaration about him being her partner. With a flirtatious smirk, she promised him her undivided attention for the week of preparations. Arvid just smiled, saying he'd work hard to keep his first-place spot. But 𝑫𝒂𝒏𝒄𝒆 saw through it. It was a forced smile, meant only to comfort her. But his smile vanished when she revealed the event was the Crown Prince's birthday ball. For an instant, his expression turned cold and unreadable, a chilling indifference that told her Arvid was hiding something. That evening, she invited him to dinner and he accepted. She had one more request, to keep that afternoon's events a secret. For Arvid, it was easy. He had no one to tell. The other contestants practically ignored him. He was a complete outcast but seemed totally oblivious. The next day, 𝑫𝒂𝒏𝒄𝒆 summoned 7 top designers to the manor. It was extravagant, but she was determined to eclipse her family at the ball. Soon after, 𝑫𝒂𝒏𝒄𝒆 escorted Arvid in. He walked in, smiling, completely unaware of the ordeal that awaited. Hours of endless fittings. After an eternity, the designers were finished, presenting him proudly to Liette. She was excited, but when he emerged in black and gold, her breath caught in her throat. She fought the urge to stare, but it was useless. He leaned in, bracing his arms on her chair and trapping her. Her heart hammered against her ribs at the sudden closeness. Flustered, she praised his suit and quickly suggested he try another. The thought of more fittings exhausted Arvid. But then Liette leaned in close, teasing that she might truly fall for him. Suddenly, he was full of energy. They spent the week preparing for the ball. As rifts appeared, the imperial family tripled the guards, raising security to its absolute peak. Roken also bolstered security, introducing Liette to Dame Sylvia for added protection. During their usual walk, Roken spoke up unexpectedly. He confessed he would have gladly been her partner for the ball. She was surprised, then joked about not wanting to burden him. But the real reason was far more complicated. In 1 year, her life would end. And with her death, the Pendelium name would finally be cleared of treason. Countless noble ladies would surely seek his hand then. She refused to destroy his future. But Roken wasn't finished. He confesses she was never a burden, and asks for a chance next time. For a moment, Leo is completely speechless. Then, a bright smile lights up her face as she gives him her promise. Little did she know, that smile had just pierced straight through Rowan's heart. That night, sleep evades Leia as she wanders the manor. She freezes when she sees it. The hidden stairway door is open. Her heart begins to hammer in her chest. That room holds all her most important documents. Panic sets in as she rushes down the stairs and comes face to face with the intruder. He's holding her documents in his hands. Her heart plummets. It's Arvid. A voice in her head screams, "Asterisk, I knew I had a bad feeling about him. Asterisk." Caught, Arvid offers a strained smile, but Leia's eyes are like ice. She can tell by the papers in his hand that he hasn't found everything. Yet, but what if this isn't his first time? Was this why he wanted access to the manor? In a flash of fury, Leia lunges for the documents. But Arvid moves like a shadow, dodging and overpowering her. In the dark, he presses a thumb to her forehead, and her world fades to black. Using a strange power, he erases the entire encounter from her mind. The next day, Leia wakes up feeling exhausted, with no idea why. Her maids get her ready for the ball, but she just sits there, lost in a mental fog. Elsewhere, Arvid waits by the carriage. When Leia appears, he's captivated by her breathtaking beauty. But behind her beauty, her eyes are hollow, completely empty. Arvid greets her, but her hesitation to take his hand sets off alarms in his head. For a split second, he panics. Asterisk. Does she remember anything? Asterisk. Finally, they arrive at the palace, where their entrance immediately becomes the center of attention. The ballroom buzzes with whispers, a mix of compliments and sharp-edged rumors. From across the room, Liette feels her family's daggers-like glares. Her father marches toward her, his face a mask of rage. But the crowd's chatter about Arvid, her lowborn partner, makes him stop. He retreats, a coward as always. Just then, the crown prince approaches her, a cocky smirk playing on his lips. He admits that, regardless of her reasons, he was very disappointed when she refused his invitation. He leans in, tilting her chin up to meet his gaze, declaring how captivated he is by her. The prince's words shock everyone, including Liette. The nobles erupt in murmurs, their minds jumping to one conclusion. She's having a secret affair with the prince. But the truth is, his confession was more chilling than it was romantic. Liette knows his interest is rooted in something far more sinister. It's madness. The same terrifying madness she'd seen in the Emperor's eyes. Just then, an attendant summons the prince, cutting him short. With a final smug glance, he bids her farewell, completely ignoring Arvid beside her. Only when he's gone does she let out a shaky breath. This is definitely going to be a long, terrible night. Soon, the dance begins, and everyone notices that she and Arvid aren't on the floor. Her name is on everyone's lips. Arvid is sick of the whispers. Turning to her with a gentle smile, he invites her to dance. It takes some convincing, but she finally agrees. She knows this is his way of trying to cheer her up and silence the gossiping crowd. Snapping back to reality, she offers her hand to Arvid. "I'll lead," she says, catching him completely off guard. Still, he smiles and accepts. For the first few moments, they're stiff and awkward with each other. As promised, Leia leads the dance. But just when she thinks Arvid is nervous, he moves. He falls into her rhythm perfectly, as if they have been dancing together for years. Under the watchful eyes of the court, he twirls her with ease, whispering he'd do anything for her. She smiles, pleased. Then she asks a question that steals his breath. "You aren't hiding anything from me, are you?" His smile freezes. Arvid tries to play it off, asking what she means, but Liette just shrugs. "It's nothing. she says. Just a thought. He forces a laugh, reassuring her that he has absolutely nothing to hide. He's an open book, he claims. From the shadows, the Crown Prince watches their every move, his eyes burning with displeasure. It seems Arvid has just made a powerful enemy. As the night deepens, 𝑫𝒂𝒓𝒏 feels restless and trapped in the palace. She wants to go home, but 𝑫𝒑𝒏 warns her against it. A royal birthday banquet is a days-long affair. Leaving early would be a grave insult. The next morning, 𝑫𝒂𝒏 is cold and distant toward Arvid. The sudden change startles even 𝑫𝒑𝒏. For the next few days, 𝑫𝒂𝒏 locks herself away with books, avoiding all social gatherings. Worried about her, Arvid tries to coax her to go outside. But she shuts him down before he can even ask. Her tone is like ice, leaving Arvid stunned by her coldness. Realizing it's hopeless, he leaves, his heart heavy. On his way out, he runs into Roken, who's headed for 𝑫𝒂𝒏's room to try the same thing. Roken suggests they go see a play happening in town. The schedule doesn't interfere with her plans, so he lets her decide. To his surprise, 𝑫𝒂𝒏's interest is piqued, and she agrees to go. 𝑫𝒑𝒏 offers to get tickets for her and Arvid, but Leia cuts her off. No, she states clearly. I'm going with Roken. Only... Her declaration shocks both 𝑫𝒑𝒏 and Roken, but nearby, Arvid overhears every single word. And for some reason, 𝑫𝒂𝒏's words feel like a knife to his heart. At noon, 𝑫𝒂𝒏 arrives at the town square with Roken. Her face lit with excitement as she gazed at the crowd. Simple clothes suited Roken surprisingly well, softening his rigid nightly presence. Roken offered his own praise, but his worried eyes never stopped scanning the bustling area for threats. His caution was justified when a sack slipped from a cart, swinging right at 𝑫𝒂𝒏. He acted instantly, pulling her into a protective embrace. The sudden intimacy made them both freeze. The cart owner rushed over, even mistaking them for a couple. After he left, 𝑫𝒂𝒏 thanked Roken, blind to his flustered state, her attention already back on the theater. Inside, music and applause filled the hall, yet 𝑫𝒂𝒏 remained oddly silent and detached. Roken gently brought her back to the present. She admitted the play was romantic, but something felt off to her. She watched others cry, wondering if she simply lacked the heart to understand. Perhaps it was because love remained a territory she had never once entered. By the end, she felt lighter, grateful for this escape from the suffocating gossip of palace banquets. The play brought her a peace she never knew she needed. As they exited, 𝑫𝒂𝒏 noticed a forming crowd. Before Roken could intervene, a sharp sound split the air. She moved closer to find her knights, Sylvia and Walter, locked in a heated standoff. The usually gentle Sylvia shoved Walter with surprising force. Roken stepped between them, his sharp voice scolding them for the public disturbance. Both knights went silent. 𝑫𝒂𝒏 stood beside him, turning to Sylvia to calmly ask why she would strike a comrade. Sylvia stepped forward, tense but steady. She explained how Walter sided with knights who had insulted 𝑫𝒂𝒏's honor. That betrayal pushed her over the edge. She lowered her head in apology. Even the loyal will snap when pushed too far. When 𝑫𝒂𝒏 turned to Walter, Roken tried to handle it himself. Walter just looked confused, unable to understand Roken's loyalty. 𝑫𝒂𝒏 ignored Roken's attempt to shield her and questioned Walter again. His vague excuse meant nothing. She called another knight forward. After a moment, he revealed everything that had set Sylvia off. With the truth revealed, 𝑫𝒂𝒏 walked right up to Walter. She told him she ignores outsider opinions, but a knight of 𝑫𝒑𝒏 must show basic respect. Walter begged for forgiveness, realizing his grave mistake too late, but 𝑫𝒂𝒏 dismissed him coldly. Roken apologized, but she refused to blame him. Instead, she turned to Sylvia and named her deputy commander. Her fierce loyalty had earned her the promotion. Walter raged behind her, but she didn't look back. 𝑫𝒂𝒏 knew better than anyone that loyalty cannot be forced. Back at the palace, 𝑫𝒂𝒏 declined yet another party invitation, completely drained from shallow socializing. 𝑫𝒑𝒏 quietly prepared tea but was stopped by a question. She finally admitted the emperor ordered her to hide 𝑫𝒂𝒏's wealth. 𝑫𝒂𝒏 gave a tired, ironic laugh, then remembered her own spending. From now on, she declared, she would live frugally. If completing the emperor's command is what keeps 𝑫𝒑𝒏 in 𝑫𝒑𝒏 County, then she would see it through. That night on the balcony, lost in thought, Arvid appeared beside her. He had moved into the room next door. He gently asked about the plaza incident, but she remained silent. Arvid sensed her turmoil, resolving to stay by her side. 𝑫𝒂𝒏, however, confronted him directly, asking why he joined the competition and stole the treason documents. At her last words, Arvid froze completely. She told him she remembered that night when he tried to erase her memories. His face was a mask of guilt. He tried to form an explanation, but 𝑫𝒂𝒏 took a step back, refusing to hear it. Betrayal from someone close always cuts the deepest. She asked if he was a spy, no different from the nobles she loathed. Memories of her past lives flooded back her desperate pleas for a second chance. The endless cycles of death. Through countless days, she had never known true love. She admitted she held the competition for that one chance at a fleeting dream. Time was running out. Her emotions spilled over as she questioned him again, but she cut off his attempts to explain. Her trust was completely shattered. She walked away from him, her heart heavy with the fresh wound. Trust is fragile, vanishing in an instant. Once it breaks, even the most sincere words cannot piece it back together. Back in her room, she wondered why she ever trusted a stranger. Her life had taught her to rely on no one. That night, a dream took her back to the forest. Arvid stood near a cliff's edge, close yet impossibly far. Just as she reached out a hand, he jumped. The motion stunned her, her heart seizing with panic and disbelief. Some moments, even in dreams, are too sharp to forget. The forest seemed to hold its breath as he fell from sight. For the first time in countless lives, 𝑫𝒂𝒓𝒏 realized the world could still wound her in cruel and unforgettable ways. Seeing his lifeless body below jolted her awake. She despised him for his betrayal, but she never wished death upon him. They say dreams show us our deepest fears. The next day, another banquet was held at the imperial palace. 𝒂𝒂𝒓𝒏 walked beside Roken, but her mind was a world away. His voice snapped her back to reality, and she apologized quietly. Approaching her, Arvid greeted 𝒂𝒂𝒓𝒏, praising her gown, but beneath his smile, his eyes were hollow, just like in her dark premonition. They entered the grand ballroom, hands clasped together. An unexpected figure awaited them. Marquis Pendelium, Roken's very own father. After exchanging pleasantries, the resemblance was uncanny. Roken and his father were perfect reflections in posture and manner. 𝒂𝒂𝒓𝒏 mused, **, you can keep Roken, I'll take his father, **. But the Marquis seemed troubled, worried for his son's role as a knight. 𝒂𝒂𝒓𝒏 assured him Roken was an ideal knight. Yet, the Marquis still fretted, desiring his son to achieve far greater things. Unable to bear his father's lecture, Roken begged him to stop. Soon, the conversation ended, letting 𝒂𝒂𝒓𝒏 and Arvid resume their walk. A strange noise startled the guests. Then, a deafening boom shook the hall. As chaos erupted, Arvid saw the rift and charged towards it, leaving 𝒂𝒂𝒓𝒏. 𝒂𝒂𝒓𝒏 was frozen stiff. Another rift opened right beside her, violently pulling at her arm. She was powerless as it began to consume her. Roken lunged to help, but his father held him back, refusing to sacrifice his son. Just as all hope faded, Arvid was suddenly there. Its force was overwhelming, yet he grabbed her without a second thought. In an instant, they were both gone, pulled into the portal together. Roken could only watch in defeat as they vanished. True courage often means diving straight into the jaws of danger, and love inspires strength beyond any known limit. The rift was an endless expanse of starlight, a beautiful and terrifying abyss where they floated. 𝒂𝒂𝒓𝒏 was in awe, shocked that they had somehow survived the pull. Then, gravity took hold. As they plummeted, Arvid shielded her with his body. After a timeless fall, they crashed hard onto solid ground. 𝒂𝒓𝒏's eyes fluttered open first. The landscape felt strangely familiar. Just then, she saw Arvid beginning to stir beside her. She chided him for his impossible recklessness, but he just recalled his vow to always protect her, no matter the cost. He wasn't worried for himself, but for the beautiful suit she loved, now ruined. Sometimes bravery is quiet, and priorities are unexpected. 𝒂𝒂𝒓𝒏 couldn't grasp his calmness, sick with worry. But Arvid understood. They were in a protected pocket dimension, not the rift itself. Seeing her lingering doubt, Arvid knew it was time. He revealed the true reason he had stolen those imperial documents. His ultimate goal was to assassinate the Emperor. A chill ran down her spine. How could this be the man she thought she knew? He swore he never meant to put her in danger. 𝒂𝒂𝒓𝒏 remained wary, but she recognized that familiar, determined fire in his eyes. It was the same look from the day they met. He staked both their lives on his honesty. The ice between them finally began to melt. Together, they searched for a way out. 𝒂𝒂𝒓𝒏 found a strange symbol on a wall. As her fingers grazed it, the mark flared with light. A biting cold forced her back as crimson mist filled the chamber. She cried for Arvid, but a goddess statue now stood before her. The statue's stone eyes opened, pulsing with an ancient, terrifying power. Some discoveries should have remained buried forever. Sometimes, reality moves too fast for even the bravest soul. 𝒂𝒂𝒓𝒏 scrambled back, stumbling to the floor, but there was no escape. She tried to scream, but her voice was stolen. The massive statue loomed over her. In her panic, she tripped and fell hard. Driven by terror, she crawled backward. As it reached for her, her hands felt not stone, but grass. She was now in a dark forest. The sounds of that night screamed around her. How was this possible? This was the very day she had died in her first life. Fear blurs the line between memory and reality, dragging you back to your worst nightmare. Fleeing, she saw it, the very same temple. A dark figure lunged from the shadows, seizing her arm. Liette's body went rigid with absolute terror. It was Arvid, but her mind showed her murderer's face an illusion of the Horma. He shouted her name, but she was lost in the memory. His voice finally broke through the nightmare, and she confessed her terror. Facing one's own demons requires the greatest courage. Even heroes need reassurance when fear takes hold. But the danger was not over. The Horma was still hunting, feeding on her fear. Arvid explained the monster's nature. It attacks by manifesting one's deepest terrors. To Liette, this creature was death itself. Without warning, Arvid pulled her into an embrace, using their contact to pinpoint the Horma. She felt his heart pounding like a drum. Leaning closer, she rested her ear against his chest. He tensed up, but she found solace in the steady rhythm of his heartbeat. With his power, Arvid located the monster and went to face it alone. She desperately wanted to follow, but was frozen by her fear. She waited, praying for his return. Then, she heard footsteps, followed by a sickening crash, the distinct sound of an attack. Her heart pounded with terror and worry. Calling his name, she pushed through a sudden black fog, relying on touch alone. Inch by inch, she crept forward on the cold stone. When the mist cleared, she broke into a desperate sprint to find him. Then she saw it, a spreading pool of blood. Dread consumed her, but before she collapsed, a hand shot out and grabbed her wrist. Arvid was stunned to see she had followed him. He quickly promised her that he was all right, that he had survived the fight. He was wounded, and his touch should have been a comfort. Instead, it carried a chilling weight that only amplified her fear. His skin felt unnaturally cold, like death itself. What had happened to him? They cautiously retreated, wary of another attack. Arvid's light laugh faded as a monstrous Hora appeared. Their moment of peace shattered. They had no choice but to fight. He summoned a diamond-bright sword from nothing, shocking Liette. She tried to intervene, but he was determined to face it alone. Liette watched from afar, praying for him. But then, Arvid's sword fell. She froze in disbelief. How could he just drop his weapon? What was happening? Had the creature become his greatest fear? And if so, what was it that Arvid feared most of all? The dark miasma cleared, revealing the Hora's form. Liette gasped. It was Arvid's perfect double, a mirror of the man she loved. She was paralyzed, torn between terror and a sliver of hope. This battle had just become deeply personal for them both. Arvid fought his double with deadly precision, evading each swift attack. The creature sensed victory, but Arvid took control. He shattered its sword, trapping the shrieking copy. He prepared to destroy his other self. The smoke vanished, and Liette ran to Arvid as he collapsed into her arms. She checked his wounds, her heart gripped with fear. The memory of why he feared his duplicate haunted his mind, refusing to fade. Fear and rage are potent forces. The greatest battles are often fought within. Holding him close offered a brief moment of peace. Liette questioned it all. The rifts, this strange place, the wall symbols. Was it all connected to the Order of Ceridium? The Order had always used barriers to shield its followers. The Imperial Palace even promoted them to win over the people. When rifts appeared, people relied on the Order's protection. But just as her thoughts spiraled, Arvid stirred, finally awake. They approached the wall where the monster had vanished. Ancient text was carved there, a possible key to their escape. Reading it would require immense divine power. To his shock, Liette recited the script perfectly. A magic circle blazed to life. They stared, stunned by her ability to read the ancient text. Wasting no time, they stepped into the shimmering portal. Her eyes caught the final inscription, widening in horror. The text warned that the Hora would hunt its target until death. A chilling realization washed over her. Their ordeal was far from over. The real danger was just beginning. She feared for Arvid's future. The portal flashed, depositing them in a forest. Knights swarmed the light, finding them alive. The Crown Prince appeared, his eyes glinting with curiosity at their state. Then, a sudden realization hit Liette like lightning. The rift was familiar. She'd seen it in documents about the Imperial family, a map of the palace basement. It all clicked. They had been trapped in the Imperial Palace's own secret basement. Soon, news of their miraculous return spread like wildfire. Though rifts still opened, the Imperial family gave them special treatment, placing them in the main palace to recover. Priests visited often, probing for details of their escape. But Liette remained resolute, feigning complete amnesia. She knew the priests wanted intel on the basement. To speed up her release, Liette decided to feign a sudden illness. 𝑫𝒑𝒏 understood immediately, convincing the priests to leave. Even they couldn't argue under Roken's icy stare. With the priests gone, 𝒂𝒏 insisted she was fine and had to leave. She was far more worried about Arvid than herself. 𝒂𝒏 prepared a carriage, leaving Roken to guard her. Full of remorse, Roken begged for punishment for his failure. Confused by his intensity, she simply said his duty was to protect her next time. Preparations to depart were made. Arvid left first. The palace was clearly keeping them apart. Just as she reached her carriage, the crown prince appeared to see her off. His true motive was obvious. He wanted to know what they saw. 𝒂𝒏 held firm, claiming she recalled nothing from the rift. The prince's expression hardened, and he offered her strange, chilling words of parting before she finally left. Secrets are a beacon for the curious. A strong will often draws more scrutiny. Sometimes, silence is your only defense. 𝒂𝒏 understood his hidden meaning instantly. She played the part of a clueless noble, her voice light as she moved to the carriage. The prince watched her every move, searching for a crack in her facade. She boarded, gave a perfect farewell, and the carriage departed. He was clearly already plotting their next encounter. Inside, 𝒂𝒏 finally breathed. The weight of the palace began to lift. Her thoughts raced back to the rift, the basement, to coincidences that felt more like warnings. Back home, she immediately sought out Arvid. The knights told her he was in the forest. She found him there among the trees, almost as if he were waiting for her. She asked about his health. He'd left early to escape the palace's prying eyes. 𝒂𝒏 then revealed what she'd pieced together. The rift, the basement, the maps, it all pointed to the emperor. But Arvid had a different theory, believing the rifts proved the emperor's influence was fading. They agreed to investigate quietly before making a move. Months flew by, and a deep winter blanketed the land in snow. While others celebrated, 𝒂𝒏 lost herself in work. 𝒂𝒏 finally urged her to come outside into the falling snow. A man stood alone, reading a list on the bulletin board. 𝒂𝒏 turned and froze. She recognized that face, and that's where we'll stop for today. As always, smash that like button and comment if you want the next part. Don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell for updates. See you all next time.